Okay, so continuing on with connecting the car to the other car. We're under the rocker at this point, and we are spotting in all the way along that angle iron that was used to create the pinch weld now. It's a little difficult to film here upside down and backwards, but you can see the idea right there. I'll grind those off. I'll seal that up with epoxy on the bottom side there. I don't want to overheat that rocker and put too much. There's no need to. Normally your rockers are held with spot welds every 2 inches or so. This is 1.5 inch spacing, and so that should be fine. And over here, I've got some horsiness going on. This connection to the rocker to the quarter panel is buckled up quite a bit. You can see here. I'll have to cut that loose and see if I can't straighten that out before I continue welding it all the way to the back here. Anyway, that's where we're at. Okay, just wanted to show you this before I cut it out. This is some of the Challenger structure that's in the way of creating a nice continuous pinch weld coming all the way down the door jamb and then down to the base here where the sill is. So I'll be cutting it off right around here and then up this way. I made a pattern from the outside, placed it on the inside here, and then I'll be mending it in along here to create that pinch weld. Now, I kind of missed doing it over here, and I really got to go back in here, and I'll have to do the same thing. I'm going to have to clearance this out. You see how this pinch weld fades out here and then it picks back up over here? Well, that's going to become an issue when I try to put a welting continuously around this door opening. So I'm going to have to trim this down and fix my my little oversight there. Anyway, I thought I'd show you that before I eliminate it, and then you won't know what I'm referring to. Okay, so this is where we're at now. I finished filling this piece in here, creating a flange so that I can put some welting on it later on, finish it out. Haven't done the front one yet, but I've got to fill in here, reconcile this panel. This line over here is where the bottom of the side glass will be, so I've got to both cut this panel down here later on, but in the meantime I was just trying to figure out how high I needed to go with this panel as to not interrupt the glass. Anyway, that's where we're at right now. Alright, so I corrected the front closure up there. I cut the floor, the inner floor, down a little bit further so that I could end up with about a 1/2 inch inner pinch weld, so I could have something to attach some welting to kind of finish off that edge. We'll continue around and up. Anyway, the next part here is I've cut away the amount of material I need at the top to accommodate the quarter window. I just roughed that in, and now I've got to make a piece that transitions from the door jamb pinch weld over, and I'll show you that when I put it together. Here's that transition piece I was telling you I was going to make. It's 60 thousandths steel. It's quite substantial. And the reason for that is this is really what's going to brace up the door jamb and connect the inner panel underneath the quarter glass to the door jamb, stiffen all of that up. You remember we removed the stock inner panels right here, these pieces, so all of this rigidity in here has to be replaced. The reason it's on an angle like this is because I'm trying to miss the mounting points for the side impact crash sensors. You can see that it has some shape to it. It's kind of a serpentine shape to follow the door jamb on this side here. So this is kind of curved to follow the door jamb, and then of course this is flat with a small weld tab bent into it. I had to make it in 2 pieces, obviously, because of the shape. Anyway, I'll show you what that looks like in place. Okay, that piece is welded in now. You can see it makes for a really strong door post here now. This is really solid. Let me go around to the other side so I can show you what it looks like from the inside. All right, don't know how well you can see that with the reflections and everything, but that's what it looks like from the inside. And down here is my mount point for that side impact sensor that I was talking about. I'm gonna have to I had to cut out this section here to allow for the window glass, so I'll be moving the side impact sensor just down to here, which is only about an inch away. It shouldn't affect anything, but this is how that's all welded in together. And like I said, it makes for a pretty strong post. Up in here will be the pocket for the window, but I can't get involved with any of that until my doors are mounted, glasses in the doors, and I figure out all of that stuff, door latches and everything, so that when it's closed and the windows are rolled up and they fit the seal and everything just perfectly, then I'll be able to locate my windows in here and build the proper pocket for the window to install to. And now it's time to do all of that on this side. Rinse and repeat. Best part about working on a car is you got to do everything twice. Well, I've got me a little bit of a fiasco going here because of some more professional rust repair. This whole door pillar, I had to cut it free from the rocker because I couldn't get the rocker to roll down and touch by pinch weld. So I got a pretty good gap going along here that I'm going to have to fill back in. But this was all just kind of, it had been welded in layers, and I just cut this piece out here because as I was trying to tap this down in here, all of a sudden this starts to break up like shatter. And what it is I guess the attempt to do rust repair on this particular part of this panel here was just to keep welding up the pinholes until they stop burning through. But as you can see, it's pretty thin. It's almost nothing there. But you can see a big old glob of weld. Just keep on feeding that wire in until it stops blowing holes in it. And there you go. There you got a rust repair, right? That's what the heck was going on in there. So anyway, got to fill that in with a little bit of metal. Good times. Shouldn't be too much left of that. There's not that much left of this car, crying out loud. Anyways, got this welded up good on both sides. This pinch weld, and the bottom of this rocker is all welded in now, front to rear. A little bit more butchery. I had to cut this apart too, as I did on the other side. It wasn't as lumpy, but it was taking a turn, and it wasn't lined up straight with the rocker. And like I said, this whole door jamb was pulling a twist. It was lifting this whole end of the rocker up once I got it level here. So I had to cut it loose and then roll this down where it belongs. And now I'll have to go back and fill that in. Good times. Okay. Done the remodeling of this door pillar here. I had to fill this in with a large piece of welding wire and close up the gap that spread out here once I cut it loose to roll this rocker down to its proper location. Replaced the metal in here that was all pinholed and welded up. Finished running this out to the end and capping it over here. We've got this capped up over here all the way up. Something I forgot to do on the other side is to fill in the little door button hole from the 68 Charger. So moving on from here. Okay, so the other door jamb is in and welded, and leaving enough room for the side impact detector. And the final bit here is I welded across the back so that I connected the package tray of the old car to the new car. This turns out to be a great spot. It lines up perfectly if you strip it down to that point and then level everything off. There really wasn't that much interference. There was a couple of things on the inside that needed like this little piece here just needed a little bit of trim for that to finally settle down just where it needed to go, and which makes that even with these pinch welds, the top of the Challenger pinch welds. So that seems to be a good spot. for a relationship point in order to join these two cars together. A little bit different than what I did on my Daytona. In the Daytona, because I was keeping the package tray, which was much higher, I had to cut all the way into the C-posts in order to clear all the structure that I maintained to get that package tray up really high. But of course, the Daytona has a window plug, which the bottom of the window is way up here, so that I was able to run that existing package tray from the Dodge Charger that I built the platform, or the platform that I used, which was the Dodge Charger. Use the same package tray and run it straight into the bottom of the Daytona window. This being a tunnelback, much lower. The other issue now is going to be how I attach the seats, because the clips that hold the seat back from falling forward, because they fold forward and open up the back for storage, those clips mount above this area right here. So I have to take the covers off the seats anyway to do something with the headrests, because they're way up here and they will interfere with the window. So we're going to have to see what's going on with those on a later date, but I'm real happy with the fact that I was able to join this up and come within about 1/4 of an inch, which worked out just perfect as far as I'm concerned. So that's it for joining the body to the chassis in this area. That would be the door jambs, pinch welds, the bottoms of the rockers, these back door jambs, clearancing out the panels for my window pockets, joining the package tray to the existing package tray structure of the Challenger. And so now I'm going to start to move to the back and deal with some of the issues that I have in the back there. Well, I left all of this stuff in here just because I wanted to see if there was any way to better interface this rear clip of the old Charger with the new Challenger. But it turns out I'm probably just going to cut all of this out right down to the floor, and so that this comes straight back and straight over. And this panel here, which I was leaving in for a little bit of structural support, really isn't necessary. The frame rail runs underneath here, so if I cut this out, this is not going to do any harm. I'll probably just cut it out partially up to here in a straight line, mainly because this is where it lands with the gas hole, and so that's going to be an issue. And I'll match it on that side over there. So time to get to trimming. I'm in the process of trimming this all flat. It's a real pain because all of this seam sealer is a real bear to get out. And I ended up just using a chisel and dry scraping it. I tried heating it. I tried cutting straight through it. Made a smelly mess. Just ended up using a wood chisel, sharpened it up really good, and just kept scraping. Anyway, got this down to where it's dead flat right here from there on out. So that anytime you can straighten or flatten things out, it helps fabrication, because then you can make straight bends, and everything's you don't have to deal with complex shapes. Anyway, in an effort to do that, I need to flatten this flange, trim it off dead flat over here from one end to the other. Now these pieces here on either side from here over slope down. You can see they slope down and into the trunk well over here for the spare tire. So in order to get this complicated shape here dead flat from here, the high point on both sides, I've taken a piece of flat sheet metal about an inch and a quarter, and I notched it out for the two studs over here so that it would clear those, and I could even it up real nice with my high spot on either side, and then it's flat. So I basically just clamped it in and scribed a line along there. You can see my rough cut there. I'm getting ready to clean that up and get that so that's dead flat from this point all the way to here. That should help me do my filler panels a little bit easier. Before I get involved with any of this rear closure, I have to connect the back of the car, my plates here, to the ends of the frame rails. What I've done is I've made a couple of plates that bolt right directly to where the normal bumper would bolt on the Challenger. So these are 3/16 thick, and they're held on by number 313 bolts and nuts that are, the studs are on the ends of the frame rail. And so that gives me a base plate to weld to that's secure. And this is a piece of 083 tubing with a slight bend in it. And the reason for the bend is I want this to be level with the bottom side of the floor of the trunk. And then I just want it to kick up so that it has a slight bend in it, and it connects to the plate over here, because this plate is just above the floor level. So this has to come through the floor at the very last minute and then make a connection here, which that'll be something like this when it's done. Now you might think that's not insufficient, but you might think that is insufficient, but it's plenty. Number one, the car body is sitting solidly on all of this structure that remained. It's connected really well here. I still have to connect these towers that have the torsion bars for the trunk hinges to the wheel tubs themselves. Once that's in, this whole back of this body is really well supported already. And of course, the compound shape of the body itself, you've got a pretty solid setup over here. Obviously, there's a little bit of flex in it, maybe 1/4 to 1/8 of an inch. So what's this just doing is just providing a little bit of support in order to finish the triangulation of this whole box here. And then once all of your floor pans are in and your drops for your quarter panels, that'll add an additional boxing. Also, I've seen a lot of guys extend this frame rail out with a big beefy structure out to the end, which I guess that's something you might want to do. But for my preference, I would want the back of this, if anybody had a rear collision with this car, I would rather that this area give up the ghost than to transfer all of the energy potential to the actual frames of the car, so that all of this would give up first before any damage happened to the actual structure of the car. So again, this is kind of an impact zone. I mean, nobody wants to think about the idea if anything gets, you get into a fender bender or about a 30-mile-an-hour crash, rather sacrifice sheet metal, which you could just cut away and put new sheet metal on, than the integrity of your structure, of your frame rails that support your suspension and everything. Anyway, that's where I'm headed with this. But first, before I can actually make the connection, I want to make sure that there isn't any rack or twist, and this is all at the same height, side to side. So what I've done is I've marked a point on the chassis here, and then I went up level, and in both directions, both front to rear and side to side, so that I have an accurate measurement from that point. That's another reason why this is good to have this decked out level. So I have a level reference anywhere along this top lip, and I can measure to this lip at this distance, and I can adjust my height just a little bit, jack this up a little bit. It's like maybe an 1/8 of an inch. It hardly wants to move at all at this point, but there's probably an 1/8 of an inch difference between both sides from what I can see right now. So I'll reconcile that, and then the body of the car will be level with the chassis of the car back here. That's another advantage, by the way, of leveling the car out side to side. You know that the chassis is level, so you can use a level to reference between the two. So here's the bars installed. Beauty of having this is I just tacked this all up, cut the tack, and pulled this whole thing out so that I could weld it up good outside of the car, because it's pretty awkward welding this bar inside the car and getting a neat job out of it. And then once it was primed up with some epoxy primer, slipped it back in, bolted it up, welded it up over here, and then re-primed the rest of the bar and the plate. So as you can see here, this is pretty solid now with just those two bars. Now I'll have to climb in here through this hole. There's a number of things I have to do before I close this area up. One of them is I can't reach in there over the car in any way to get back to these two supports that I just showed you that have to be connected to the wheel tubs. So I'll be getting in there and struggling a little bit, trying to make some patterns and make some pieces to connect the wheel tubs to those two brackets. Here's what those two little extension pieces look like that are going to go down to the tops of the wheel tubs. This is the right hand side. It's got a little bit of convoluted shape to it. This one's a little more straightforward. I drilled out some holes for the plug welds, and then I'll just spot it to the wheel tub around the lower edge. Anyway, got to prime those with some weld through primer and then install them, and I'll let you see them when I'm done. So these are installed now, and they're locked to the wheel tubs, tops of the wheel tubs. So now all of this is locked in and secured. So if you work these hinges and the torsion bars, there's not going to be any twisting of the metal or any problems like that. I can add the deck lid back to the car whenever I need to without worrying about any problems there. I did have a problem, however, with my little tricky system of installing those inner rims after the fact. It turns out that I wouldn't have had any problems if I had installed those rims. These rims are what I'm talking about here, the ones to catch the crush panels. If I'd done that before the body was dropped, this little box here that was going to be the only problem. But I could have worked around that by making the box separate and installing it afterwards. But got a little too clever, and it turns out that because that charcoal canister and the box that I built around it is right here in the wheel hole, when I dropped the body, it wasn't even an issue. Sometimes it's hard to visualize things ahead of time. So I struggled for a little while getting these rims installed with just the adhesive, the panel adhesive. Now, obviously, I was going to count on having some steel rivets in there for mechanical fastening also as a double, measure. But there's no way to even get a rivet gun in there. I barely got the Cleco pliers, and you can see the Clecos holding it into the glue. So I'll have to come back and scrub this rim off and add some spot welds around there to secure this, which is no big tragedy, but that was really pretty much, well, it wasn't a complete waste of effort. In other words, I still had to build that stuff. The problem is I assumed that they would be easy to install after the body was dropped, and there's absolutely no room to maneuver. I can't even get my hands around the top side of that box. So that'll happen on a job this size. So we'll wait till Monday, and that glue will be nice and dry. I'll take all those Clecos out and add those tack welds, and we'll move on from there. Lesson learned. Anyway, thanks for watching.